What's up, Carpet Munchers? Matty and BK's Week 4 recap.
Back at it again.
Yeah. Got you guys with another video.
Yup.
This video is sponsored by Ghost.
Ghost.
Because it's spooky season.
It is spooky season.
Woo! All right. Now, we have a lot of changes this week in the power rankings. A lot of people moved up.
Downs.
A lot of people moved down. Matt's going to kick it off.
All right. Starting at the number 1 spot, it's Big Poppy. I am sitting at the number 1 spot yet again, back on the throne. And my team is just better than everybody's. And we have a new system to grade our power rankings. So we're going to split it evenly between these 3 categories. And it comes down to roster, which is our opinion on who's the best roster. But we have a good opinion as to who has a good roster and a bad roster. It's the best roster, the most points for, and then the record. So whoever, between like 2 teams, whoever has 2 versus the 1, that's who's higher on the power ranking. So I'm sitting at 1 because I have the most points for, and I have the best roster. Second off the board, we have Nate Dogg, who dropped the spot, and I beat Nate out on the roster and the points for, obviously. But Nate doesn't really have any holes on his team. I mean, you know, he lost last week. He lost his perfect record, but D Swift was out. Jamal Williams is looking serviceable. Damian Pierce is looking like a really good RB2. The Josh Allen and the Dig stack really didn't come through last week, but, I mean, his team still put up like 120-something points. So watch out, Nate, week in and week out. He has a squad. He's sitting at 2. Number 3 off the board is Alex, and Alex just lost Jonathan Taylor for like a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But he's got Nyheim Hines, and Nyheim Hines might be able to rotate in and be serviceable for him. Nick Chubb is looking like a
great
RB1.
pick. Great pick, Alex.
Travis Kelce, Nick Chubb. It's a very good 2-3 turn.
And now he's finally got Goff.
And Goff, yeah, a QB1, a real QB. Sitting at number 1, that stack with Amon Ra, shit, I'd watch out for that.
That's nice.
Yeah, so Alex is sitting at 3. Solid team.
All right. 4th spot, we have fucking Coates. Fuck you, Coates.
Fuck you,
all right?
Coates.
That's what I want to start off and say. Fleeced. BK got fleeced. Shut your mouth. No, I didn't. All right? I gave you 8 points of people who you started. All right? Najee is the worst person in your starting lineup, and I'm not even joking. I mean that. But at the same time, that's why you're 4th, because even though the players I gave you aren't going to help you at all, I think Greg Dortch is projected 2 points, Coates, and you're just holding them just cause. But Godwin's back. You don't really have any holes besides him. If only you still had Josh Allen, then maybe your team would look even better.
A little better.
But in the 4th spot, team's been doing decent, but you're probably going to lose this week to Matt.
Yeah.
But, hey.
I'm coming head high.
You're 4 right now. All right, 5th we have Chuck. I think Chuck's a little weak at his RB2 spot. Not a huge fan of James Conner. Wasn't going into the year. I don't know. He's always banged up. But I think there's a few guys on his bench that could come in and maybe fill the role. He's a little weak in his flex spot, like I said. Alan Lazard's but he's still putting up points, and he's got the people around to make up for it, like Pittman and Waddle. 6 is me. Rest in peace, Javonte Williams. What are you going to do? But Melvin Gordon, on the bright side, I think won't be that bad of a drop-off. I think it will be just a two backfield with him and Mike Boone. And it was 3 with Javonte in there. Like, the other 2 got touches. So I think I'll be okay. Baltimore was a rainy game. I'm in the 6th spot. I moved down a few spots.
Yeah, and number 7 off the board, we got Jew Beans falling down 2 spots. And, I mean, Josh's team is pretty solid. He has, honestly, a very well-rounded roster. And Chris Olave is turning into some sort of wide receiver, too. Drake London is still looking very solid. He's got 2 very good running backs, and he's got a good quarterback and a good tight end. But his tight end underperformed this week. I came up, I beat him, but roster's still very good. Next up off the board, we got Dick Cheese. Dick Cheese got another win. So what is
Congratulations, Dick Cheese. He's 3-1.
Dick Cheese 3-1. Watch out, everybody.
That's my dark horse team.
Dark horse team to maybe make the last seed in the playoffs. But fuck it, Dick Cheese coming out rolling. He's got Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb has looked good.
I like Brees.
With Cooper Rush.
Garrett Wilson.
Brees, Garrett Wilson. J.K. Dobbins had 2 touchdowns, so hey, maybe he'll turn into something down the stretch, and maybe one of his shitty bench running backs will find a way to be good.
True.
So yeah, Aiden's team not too bad. ZQ coming in at the 9 spot. He's got a good roster. He's had some ups and downs this season.
We just need some
sitting
W's.
at 1 and 3. He just needs some W's, yeah. But the cake is in the oven for Zach, and there's more things to come. But we'll see what happens with this whole Dalvin situation. I know he's been playing banged up, so we'll see. We'll see.
All right, 10, we have Austin. Sorry, Austin, you kind of been like floating around the bottom parts of the power rankings, but it's what happens when Kamara's been banged up.
Yeah.
Like you've
Kyle
had,
Pitts has been shit.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts has been shit. But you know what? I think your team will still see better weeks. I've been saying it, and Kyle Pitts will eventually get some touchdowns. I respect you for dying on that hill with him.
But if you want Tyler Higbee, you got him, bro.
Yeah, but you know what? You took him that early. He hasn't panned out so far. I respect that you don't want to trade him just in case he does do good. All right. 11, we have Meech. Woo!
Meech.
All right, you're supposed to be 12, but we figured because you don't have the worst record that
we just got to give it to you.
Yeah,
it might be your only week out the basement.
Yeah. You caught me lacking this week, Meech. T.J. Hawkinson should be your favorite fucking player because he scored half your points. I'm not even joking. 40 is crazy from a tight end.
Yeah,
so,
that's like a once a season type of thing.
Yeah, so thank God you're not 12 this time. You still probably should have been, but, I wanted to help you out a little bit.
Yeah.
And coming at 12 is Drew. All right, he's still got a good roster, I think.
Still got one of the best rosters.
Yeah, but 0 wins.
0 wins is only so much you can do, man.
Yeah, we had to put you here at the bottom.
It's like putting him in timeout.
I think you might get a win this week.
You're kind of banged up, Nate.
Yeah, you got to get one eventually, and I could see it happening this week. As long as Clyde keeps finding the end zone, I think, Drew, you could turn it around.
Drew's players just got to put up points.
Yeah. All right, next we're going to get into trades of the week. There weren't any. You guys need to get on your phones.
How come me and BK and Zach
and make
the
some
only ones making trades?
The only one really was Nate and Zach.
Yeah.
What did you think about that trade?
Yeah, Goddard for Njoku. Zach is finally giving up on Evan Ingram, so I think that's pretty much sums up the trade right there. But yeah, Michael Thomas for Terry. I know Nate was trying to move off of Terry for a little while. Terry didn't have much trade value for him.
I like Terry as a flex.
I like Terry. Terry's fine. And Darrell Henderson for Michael Gallup swap. I like Henderson more than Gallup, preferably, but Gallup could see some pretty good days coming when Dak Prescott comes back and he's off limited snap count. But yeah, I like Darrell Henderson. If Cam Akers goes down, you can get a low-end RB2 out of that guy.
I like the trade for both.
Trade was all right overall. Yeah. The other trade that happened was me and Coates. Me and Coates made a Jahan Dotson, Trevor Lawrence swap, which I think will probably help the both of us because Jahan Dotson has had some pretty decent weeks coming out. He might miss a week or two now, which, whatever, not my problem. I got Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence the next 4 weeks has a pretty solid schedule. I'm excited to see what the Jags do the next couple weeks. And I think I can finally sit there and be like, Kirk or Trevor Lawrence, and then I'll pick the wrong one of the two of those guys. But hey, at least I have 2 guys to pick from now. So, big ups.
All right, next we're going to get into studs of the week. Obviously starting off with quarterback. Mine quarterback is Jared Goff. I'm proud of Alex for finally putting his foot down and stop being stubborn.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I'm going to put in a different quarterback. And you know what happened? His team's been winning ever since. All right, Jared Goff's a good fantasy quarterback if they're going to throw the ball that much.
Lions are good fantasy offense.
Yeah, it's just a good offense in general that surprised a lot of people. And with Amon-Ra coming back soon, it's just only going to look better.
Yeah.
But I think it was big ups that it showed that even without Amon-Ra, the offense can still get it done.
And D Swift.
Yeah.
They literally didn't have their two best offensive players. Jared Goff still put up 30
And
points.
DJ Chark was out. And they
Really?
still put up all those
It was the TJ
points.
Hawkinson show. They got some depth there playing out there.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah, my start of the week at QB was Geno Smith. And that, fucking Goff and Smith going at it last week. I don't think Smith is going to be as reliable as Jared Goff will be. I don't think their offense will be as efficient as the Lions' rest of season. But he does have some weapons there to work with. And he made the most of it this last week. He put up 30 points. He's sitting on the waiver wire still, I think. So
I think Meach picked him up.
Didn't he? Good pickup, Meach. He's a good flyer. There's a couple good flyers out there. I think Geno Smith and Jared Goff are some pretty decent flyers. Not much to say there. It was a high-scoring game. They put up some points and didn't punt once in that game. That was a crazy stat that I saw.
I think the Lions punted a couple times, but Seattle didn't. But, yeah. Austin Eckler is my running back at stud of the week. He shut me up because I think he was my dud of the week last week. Got in the end zone a lot, but at the same time, the usage still didn't go up all that much. He was just more efficient on his touches. And you know what? I think he will fall into more touchdowns. Like, it's a good offense. And even with some injuries on the line, like, he'll still be like a low-end RB1. He'll be fine.
Yeah, my start of the week was the best bench player of the week, I suppose, because I left him on my fucking bench. Josh Jacobs putting up 35.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs. Thank you, Zach, for giving me Josh Jacobs. And Miles Sanders would probably be the other stud of the week sitting there with like 29 points. But Josh Jacobs.
Honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mention. Miles Sanders. Josh Jacobs had a lot of carries. He had like 28 carries or some shit. And he was getting some receptions. He was scoring some touchdowns. I mean, I think that hopefully this is an upward trend for Jacobs and he can start getting more volume. He gets a lot of good touches out of the Raiders offense, and the Raiders offense should only get better from here. I mean, they got a lot to work with out there. So I can see big days for Josh Jacobs coming out the rest of the year. And I'm happy that I have like a solidified RB2 now. So.
All right. My receiver stud of the week is T. Higgins. I think he showed that with Jamar and Tyler Boyd on the offense, he can still get it done. He'll have his games over Jamar, which is I think is a good thing for T. Higgins. He showed that even as a wide receiver too, he might be able to put up a wide receiver 1 fantasy stat line this year. Maybe, I don't know, I think Jamar has to get more points too. He's due for some positive regression. But at the same time, T. Higgins will, in my opinion, get double digits at least every week with some upside. So I like T. Higgins.
Yeah, another offense that just hasn't been putting up the points that it has the potential to put up. So once they start to fall into their own, you can watch out. T. Higgins could be that guy. Next up for me, I picked Tyreek Hill, Big Reek, Smelly Reek. Just Tua went down and he still ate.
Yep.
He doesn't care what his quarterback situation
is
looking like. Tyreek Hill is a baller. Waddle suffered a little bit, but I mean, when you can see a guy go out there and put up like 160 yards, I mean, with Teddy, who's a serviceable backup, I wouldn't be too worried with Tua going out the next couple weeks. Tyreek will still get his. I mean, he's an up and down receiver, but he can still hit his ups.
All right, at tight end, I think it's only right I talk about T.J. Hawkinson. Since
Big Dick TJ.
Him alone, he beat me. It sucked that he had to score 40 because I would have won if he scored 30. But hey, sometimes that's just how
He
how
could have
it
scored
rolls.
fucking 50. He was like about to put that touchdown in.
I think T.J. Hawkinson showed that he is fantasy competent this year. You'll get 5-point weeks. A lot of them, but you know what? At least, at least he'll have big touchdown weeks like he showed. A lot of people were banged up, like Amon-Ra wasn't there, DJ Chark wasn't there, Swift wasn't there. So instead of like doing what he'd usually do and just block the whole time, they used him as a receiving weapon, and he showed he can do it. So big ups for TJ Hawkinson. Congrats, Demetrius. He won you this week.
Yeah, my tight end of the week was my boy Tyler Higbee, and he has been looking outstanding this year. He's looking like the second option on the Rams. Sorry to Allen Robinson. I thought he was going to be better than this. But Tyler Higbee, biggest sleeper coming out of the year for tight end position. I drafted him almost at like the end of the draft. Like it was like pick 134. I picked that guy. And that's, in my opinion, why you want to go after a TJ Hawkinson, or even like just picking up like a David Njoku, a Gerald Everett. And like I'll keep preaching this. If you're not going to get one of those top two guys that you know for sure, without a doubt in your mind, is going to be a top two guy, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, I think it's just way more preferable to me to just sit and wait and just collect the other positions. Because, I mean, just look at what Austin's dealing with right now with Kyle Pitts. Like, he picked Kyle Pitts in the third round, and, like, there was a lot of speculation to believe that Kyle Pitts was going to be good this year. And I even believed that Kyle Pitts was going to be good this year. But, you know, shit happens. He's on the fucking Falcons. So, when you got a guy like Kyle Pitts who's been putting up, like, 3 points a game, and you picked him in your third-round pick, I mean, that's going to fuck you all year. So, and the same thing, in my opinion, with Darren Waller and Kittle. I don't really think they're, like, guaranteed locks. Yeah. So where they're going, I'd rather, honestly, just take a late flyer. I think you can find...
Gerald Everett, David Njoku,
I'm getting 12 points a game from a guy that I drafted at the end of the draft. So I think there's plenty of guys there that you could pick up that have that potential. So that's my long rant about how I feel about tight ends.
All right.
Duds of the week.
At quarterback, I want to talk about Lamar a little bit. It was raining. I really do think this will be his worst fantasy game this year. For some reason, he's just bad in the rain. It affected Mark Andrews, too. They didn't throw that much. They were leaning more on J.K. Dobbins, which I don't think will be a huge thing coming up. I think J.K. Dobbins will be fantasy relevant, though. I think that's what that showed. But I think this is more because of the weather. They play against the Bengals Sunday night coming up. I think it'll be a high-scoring game. Yeah, so I think he'll get me back this week. Of course, he had to make me lose to Meech when all the rest of my players did bad. But
just how the world works.
How the cookie crumbles.
Yep. Yeah, my dud of the week would have to be Stafford. There weren't a lot of people that were candidates for dud of the week.
Yeah.
But
quarterbacks did
the quarterbacks didn't do terrible this week. But yeah, Stafford put up a pretty sad performance against the 49ers, and the 49ers have a good defense, but he just hasn't really looked like himself this year. And he is another example of a quarterback that you might just find better options in a Jared Goff then.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you had to draft him at a certain place where Jared Goff pretty much just sat on the waivers. Tua sat on the waivers before he got hurt. Tua was that dude. I mean, you know, Stafford had a lot of things going for him this year. I didn't think he was going to be this trash. I didn't think the Rams would honestly be this trash. I thought they would do a lot better, but
if I'm Meech, I'm starting Geno over Stafford.
Yeah, a disappointing performance from Stafford. I think there could be better days, but I'm not like hype on Stafford or anything.
Yeah. All right. For my dud of the week at running back, it's Jonathan Taylor. I know you guys are like, oh, he got hurt. But he got hurt with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and he only had 5 or 6 points he finished with. He hasn't looked that great. And the injury on top that he has to come back from now, I don't know. I just don't think he was worth the number one pick. I know there are a lot of busts in the first round, but Jonathan Taylor might be the biggest one. I think Nyheim Hines will be able to fill in good for Alex, though, like we were saying. And Jonathan Taylor was ranked the RB24 last year at this time, and I think he's around the RB24 now. But with the injuries and stuff, I'm sure when he comes back, he'll do fine and make up for it. But dud of the week this week for sure.
Yeah, my dud of the week comes from James Robinson, and it was pretty. You could have speculated this dud because they were playing the Eagles, who have a notoriously good run defense, but Etienne was getting a little bit more work this week. It was very much a split backfield. And I think that's just how it's going to be in these closer games and the games where they're trailing. And that's why I had a little bit of hope for Etienne, was that I just felt like the Jags would be trailing more and it'd be more Etienne-favored game scripts. In my opinion, it looks like the Jags are just way better than everybody thought they would be, including me. So I'm sure there will be better days for James Robinson. But in those games where the Jags aren't pulling it out, don't expect James Robinson to be worth a start. I mean, you'll still start him, but he's not going to score you many points unless he falls into the end zone. So, dud of the week, James Robinson.
My dud of the week is another Colt, Michael Pittman. He almost had a touchdown. He was out of bounds. It would have saved this week, but I don't like how the Colts offense looks in general. Like, I think they have the least points scored at all the offenses this year, which I wasn't expecting. I thought the Colts would look a lot better. He'll still be fine because his target share is so high, but they look like they really like the tight ends in the red zone too. Like, they're eating a lot of the touchdowns away, which I wasn't really liking. It's kind of why Jonathan Taylor hasn't been cashing out this year, and Pittman isn't getting the touchdown work I think he deserves. But you know what? He'll still be fine. And it'll be good for Chuck, in my opinion. Just a shitty week.
Yeah, my wide receiver dud of the week happens to be Jalen, who didn't waddle his way into the end zone and therefore didn't score many fantasy points this week. Same thing with Tyreek Hill. Tua went down, so the offense isn't going to be running as efficiently as it would as if Tua was in.
Yeah.
But now that's something to worry about. Mm-hmm. And I know I said earlier Tyreek Hill can overcome those type of situations because he's such a good wide receiver. I think Jalen Waddle could too. But for the both of them, for as long as Tua is out, you're just going to have to sit there and worry about what am I going to get from this guy this week. And this is what it looks like from Jalen Waddle. Still a stud, but just going to be downgraded for the next couple weeks. You're not playing with your starting quarterback.
Yeah. All right, tight end, I have George Kittle. Same thing. He was out of bounds on a touchdown. But I think it showed that it really is just Debo, Brandon Ayuk. They're going to be getting the pass work. George Kittle's too good of a blocker, and they involve Kyle Juszczyk in big plays more than Kittle because Kittle's just so good at blocking. He's such a good tight end in real life, but in fantasy, unless he gets touchdowns, he's really not going to do much for you.
They're just way more focused on the run game.
Yeah, and it makes sense too because they have a good line. They have a great run coach.
They run their team well. We can't bitch at them.
Yeah, so I don't know. Kittle in fantasy is just going to be a spike play, but at tight end, it's fine. He's just not going to be.
Yeah, he can still hit like 20, 30 points.
Yeah, he's just not going to be as big or as good as he used to be.
He's just fancy T.J. Hawkinson.
It's a bold take. I don't know about that one. But
anyway, yeah, my tight end dud of the week, I just happened to play, which was nice. I played Darren Waller. And I'd give Darren Waller the dud of the week category mainly because there was no Hunter Renfrow this week. So you would think he would start getting more work. But it looks like they'd rather use Matt Collins than Darren Waller sometimes because of the way they're throwing him the ball. I mean, they still got him some targets. But this is just my opinion. Like I said earlier, George Kittle, Darren Waller wasn't in love with those picks in like the 5th round. I mean, think about it. You passed on Amon-Ra St. Brown for Darren Waller. You passed on like Marquise Brown, Michael Thomas. I mean, all these guys that are just putting up good fantasy seasons. There's plenty others to name too. So, I don't know. Dud of the week, he'll have better weeks, but it hasn't looked good for him. And we'll see what happens.
Matty's must-watch matchups.
Yeah, Matty's must-watch matchups. Watch out for Nate versus Drew. We got a 3-1 team who looks banged up versus a 1-3 team who looks like an 0-4 team who looks like they need a win. So, I'm interested to see what happens with that matchup. I have a feeling that Drew is going to pull that one out just because Nate's missing Swift and Drew's team is just waiting to explode. So, we'll see what happens. Next up, BK versus Chuck. We got 2 3-1 teams. It's going to be a big lobby for power ranking position this week between those two at the 5 and 6 spot. So we'll see what happens between who's going to pull that one out.
I got it.
Very interesting. Next
right.
up on the agenda, we got injuries.
Now we're gonna get into injuries. There's some big ones.
Yeah, it was.
Biggest one's obviously Javonte. He's out for the year. Like I said, I think Melvin and Mike Boone will fill the rest of the role. I don't really think Latavius will come in and like take much of the work away unless like one of them are banged up. It's a shame. Javonte was a real good talent, and
Poised for a big season.
yeah, and I think he was gonna have that good season. Thank God I have Melvin Gordon, so my team doesn't take a huge hit. But yeah, it's just sad. I think Javonte would have been good this year. Next, we got Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor's gonna be out like 2 to 3 weeks with a high ankle. Naheem Hines should be able to fill in all right, but yeah, he might. An ankle injury lingers, especially with running backs. So I'd be worried if I was Alex, but the fact that he has Naheem Hines makes him worry a little less, obviously. But yeah, like we said earlier, the number 1 pick's not really paying out to this point. If Alex didn't get
good number 2 and number 3
yeah,
picks
if Alex
for
didn't
Alex.
hit on that Kelsey and Chubb pick like he did, he'd probably be in some trouble. But you know what, he did, and he got a Monroe in the 5th. Alex had a pretty good draft.
Yeah.
All right, next we got Cordell. Cordell's knee's fucking him up. They put him on the IR. It's probably going to be like 4 to 5, I'm pretty sure. Tyler Algier looks like he's going to take a lot of the work. Caleb Huntley, but I'm not sure how much fantasy production you'll get out of both of them because Damian Williams was still hurt too, and he's going to come back. So even with Cordell out, it looks like they might split the backfield 3 ways.
Yeah, can't love a Falcons backfield split.
Yeah, and you're hoping that it's just going to be Damian Williams and Tyler Algier, but if it's not, then none of them are worth the start still. All right. Next, we have Rashad Bateman. He's dealing with a little bit of a leg thing. That's why he didn't produce last week, but Lamar wasn't really dishing the ball out anyways. I think it's smart of Alex not to start him this week while he's not completely healthy because there are other competent receiving options on the team like Mark Andrews and Duvernay, and Lamar just doesn't throw the ball enough or spreads the ball around enough for him to eat while he's hurt, in my opinion. Treylon Burks went down with like a I don't even know. I think it was a knee thing, but he looks like he'll be out for a while. It looks like Robert Woods will eat. I think he's on Charles's team. And who knows, maybe other guys will produce that we didn't even think about. They got a good rookie, Kyle Phillips, that I like, but he's banged up too. But sucks for Treylon because I think he could have got better or got a bigger role as the season went on. But, like, hey, it happens. It happened to Javonte too. Whatever. Next is Jahan Dotson. You know anything about that injury?
It's going to be like a 1 to 2 week injury. That's about all I know. He's not on my team anymore. But
yeah.
1 to 2 weeks, he'll be back to split work with Terry and Curtis.
Terry should have some good weeks while he's out.
Yeah.
It just means more volume, more red zone work. But with Brian Robinson coming back in the offense, who knows? Maybe it'll turn into they'll lean a little more towards the run since they have 3 competent running backs. Last, we have Danny J and Tyrod. I know nobody's fucking starting Danny J and Tyrod, but if you guys were thinking about starting any Giants, except
Saquon Barkley.
it might affect Saquon a little bit.
We'll
the offense won't be moving as good, but he'll pay off with touches. I think Danny J's got a high ankle sprain, which sucks because he's actually not been playing like shit, and Tyrod's concussed. But who knows? Maybe they'll be able to play through it next week and it won't really matter. But the offense should look worse for the Giants, which sucks because we're playing some good teams coming up.
Yeah. Well, it was a good run for the Giants.
Yeah.
It's a shame. They got to 3-1, so you can't really complain too much.
But that's it.
That is it for this week.
Sorry for the low energy. We didn't have brewskis. My dad's out.
That's true.
Be back next week.
Yes, sir.
Bye.